These are sad times, you know. And there's one thing that us Italians do best, and that's make desserts in desperate times. And in these desperate times, I'm gonna show you how to make my tiramisu. Tiramisu are 3 words. Tira, mi, su. In free translation, that means lift me up. And it has 2 stories, and one story is it was given to those who felt a little bit depressed, a little bit down due to the savory and the sweetness and the alcohol to lift people up. So I'm going to show you my recipe of tiramisu. It is going to be a 2-stage recipe this time. From left to right, I've got 6 eggs separated with 60 grams of sugar that goes with the egg yolks, 6 egg yolks, 40 grams of sugar that go with the egg whites. I got 100 grams of flour, all-purpose flour, 30 grams of potato starch, and that will be our recipe for our biscotti savoardi, lady fingers, that we're gonna do first. Then over here I have the elements for the tiramisu. I use for this recipe 3 egg yolks. I've got 45 grams of sugar, 45 grams of icing sugar, 200 grams of heavy cream, 250 grams of mascarpone cheese. I'm gonna use a little bit of amaretto and some strong coffee we need as well. Let's get started. I always start with whisking my egg yolks together with my icing sugar. That's something I do by hand. Until it's well combined. In there, my mascarpone cheese. With my whisk, I loosen it up. And in goes the already whipped cream. Now normally I use 10% of the sugar of my weight of the cream. So for example, 200 grams of heavy cream with 20 grams of sugar. I just went in a little bit more because it needs to be nice and sweet, because mascarpone cheese is fatty, the eggs are fatty, and you want some sweetness in there. And this, as you can see, is our base for the mascarpone, for the tiramisu. This goes in the refrigerator. I'm gonna let it set. Now we're gonna start making the savoardi biscuits. You can do it as following. You can make the lady fingers, like an eclair size, or you can bake it as a plate, as a sheet, and then you can build in layers as a cake. But we're gonna make the lady fingers. I'm gonna start with my egg yolks. And one thing they hardly tell you, or something the majority doesn't know, sugar burns the egg yolks. So if I'm gonna drop my sugar in right now and I walk away for a couple of minutes, the sugar can burn without even the heat in it. The sucrose that's in sugar, the basic element, the contract the moisture in your egg yolk, and in your egg yolk there is a little amount of sulfur combined with the sucrose, gives a chemical reaction that burns your egg yolk. And that's also the same reaction when you boiling your eggs and you're boiling them too long. They turn blue. That blue color, blue-green color, is the sulfide and the iodide within your egg yolks. So little by little I'm gonna add the sugar. We're gonna continue keep whisking this till it's white and pale. After 5-6 minutes my egg yolks started to turn nice and pale. I'm gonna set this aside and we're going to start whisking our egg whites. Same story basically. I cleaned my bowl with a little bit of lemon juice to make sure my bowl is grease proof as much as possible, otherwise your egg whites will not turn on. And what I found astonishing is that I see many recipes, they pop in the sugar, let it whisk, and then Ave Maria, Gratia, Dominus Deus, let's hope it gets aerated. But what I always do first is I beat my egg whites till they are frothy, till the bubbles gets in. And then little by little I'm going to add my sugar, because the film of the egg whites, you don't want to have a crunchy texture in your egg whites. The sugar needs to be dissolved within your egg whites. As you can see, I've blown some air in it and it starts to get fluffy and bubbly. And within 3 to 4 stages, I'm going to add little by little my egg whites. Now I've been beating my egg whites for 5 minutes. The difference between if you're making a French meringue, like this is just plain your egg whites with sugar, you don't have to whip it longer than 5 minutes, because the egg whites will set, and if you over whip them, they will flatten in, get de-aired. And how do you know it's done? With the idiot proof test. Hold it upside down and it will stick. As you can see, it's not falling down. Every part is above. This way you know your egg whites are whipped. Compared to the Italian meringue, the process takes longer because you have to make a sugar syrup that needs to be boiled up to 180 degrees Celsius, then added slowly to your egg whites, and that needs to be whipped up to 10-15 minutes till it's 30 degrees Celsius to touch. Now we're gonna add these two together, and we're gonna do this in stages as well. So little by little we join them together. This goes in. This time we actually fold it in because we don't want to knock out the air of the egg whites. And compared to other recipes that I make, where I give it a good whisk and it's still airy. Well, folding technique normally is to go round and turn, go round and turn. You can make figure eights for the primary fold. As you can see, this doubles in volume. You can also twist and turn like I do so. I'm gonna do the same process later when I'm gonna fold in my flour with my potato starch. I'm using the potato starch instead of a corn starch because it will be a little bit more firm with a potato starch than with a corn starch. Corn starch will take away a little bit of the liquids. All-purpose flour with the potato starch. We are going to sieve it. In the meanwhile, I preheated my oven to 200 degrees Celsius. Scrape down the sides. If I'm making a cake biscuit, this is actually kind of similar to making a cake biscuit. I'm using a whisk instead. That way I know all my flour will be incorporated into my egg mixture instead of with a spatula. As you can see. You want to make sure all the flour and cornstarch is well incorporated, otherwise you will get lumps, and it's something you don't want to get. This is ready. Gonna set up my baking tray. We'll be back in a minute. I've aligned my baking tray with grease-proof paper. I first coated it with baking spray, special baking spray, to make sure my paper sticks well to my sheet. If you don't have that kind of spray, it's okay. Just use a little bit of water so it will stick. Note: Greaseproof paper, baking paper, has two sides. It has a rough side and a smooth side, and make sure the smooth side is always up. In with my batter. I've decided not to make the lady fingers, but to make it as a sheet. Work with your spatula to the edges. Because this is a very thin and small baking tray, doesn't need to cook that long. 7, maximum 10 minutes in the oven, 200 degrees. I said 7 minutes, but it took me a little bit longer to cook it perfectly. Always check when you're baking, not every oven works the same. You have gas ovens, electric ovens, conventional ovens, air ovens, whatever kind of ovens we have nowadays. Always check. I poked it with a metal pin. When it came out, it was dry. Normally that's a sign that it's well cooked, but it was a little bit too light for my taste, so I gave it 3 more minutes, and after 10 minutes of baking it was perfect. And while that was baking in the oven, I made an espresso, and I measured how much I had. I had about 150 grams of coffee, quality coffee. I added 10% of sugar, so that's 15 grams, and 10% of amaretto, also 15 grams, and I let that infuse. As you can see, it's still warm. I let it infuse, and we're going to brush our cake later when we go decorate our tiramisu. Once baked, I let it cool for 30 minutes, and I already pre-cut it in the shape that I like. I've got here my coffee. I'm gonna brush it with our coffee mixture. To make sure you got a nice coating. The other one as well. And when you've done this, you place the cream in the middle. It needs to set for 1 more hour in the refrigerator. Place my filling in a piping bag to make life a little bit easier for me. What you do, let it drip on the side. Other layer goes on top. I'm gonna place this in the refrigerator for 1 more hour. It has been in the refrigerator for 1 hour, and now it's time to dust it with a little cocoa powder. And there you have it, your tiramisu. Oh, I feel a lot better now that I made this tiramisu. It really lifted me up. See you guys next time.